Good afternoon, folks. Welcome. Welcome to my live stream. It's good to have you all today. It's a lovely day, is it not? It's a lovely Monday in the city, Monrovia. I'm very glad to be here. As always, whenever I do get to be here, it's always a pleasure to interact with you. And I hope you all had a good weekend, as I did. Yesterday, so for the first time this year, I actually went to see a few county meet games. Yeah, I did, and it was great. I just want to congratulate the Ministry of Youth and Sports for the fantastic organization. It was just beautiful. They put on a beautiful, spectacular, football and kickball and basketball bonanza. So I had a wonderful time, and I'm sure many people did as well. Those who got to go there and watch, as did I. So I went. My friend and brother Karim Marshall, the first day, he actually dragged me out there, and I realized that I had a good time. I had fun. And then for the final, which was yesterday, I was looking forward to the final because I had gone now. I had had fun, and I was looking forward to the final. I wanted to go. And so I called, a few folks. I got us tickets, and we went there yesterday. We watched the third place match between Grand Cape Mount County and Magibi. Yes, we watched that game, and then of course we watched the final, and it was a beautiful game. And Nimba County emerged victorious. I was cheering for Nimba, even though. So yesterday I tried to do a post while I was there, but I noticed because we had some 30,000 or more people in the stadium, the internet traffic was pretty jammed up, and so it took a hell of a long time before my post that I was making eventually got onto Facebook. And so it took like an hour later. And so when I said I'm here rooting for Nimba, and people were like, "Oh yeah, okay, you're saying that because Nimba is in the lead." No, I just want you all to know I had made my post prior to Nimba scoring that goal. Yeah, but I was cheering for Nimba. And if you're wondering why, I have lineage to Nimba. My late mother was married to a Nimba man from Saclay-Pied, the Zare family from Saclay-Pied. I have two siblings, my little brother, Siaka Zare, and my little sister, Xavier Zare. They're Nimba people. They're Mano people from Saclay-Pied, Nimba County. So my two youngest siblings are from Nimba County. And so I have affinity to Nimba County. Grand Crew, I have absolutely nothing against Grand Crew folks, but I just, have lineage to Nimba. So I was rooting for Nimba all the way. And it was a beautiful game. Grand Crew did play well, but Nimba deserved the victory. Now I saw my dear friend George Weah I saw him, put on one of his, usual Weah talismanic performances with the Grand Crew team after the match. I saw him lecturing the team on the mistakes they made and how they could have scored, and of course he tried to make it about himself, as he does with everything. And but the point about it is that I read comments, people were saying, why didn't he do that before the game? Former President Weah, man, you should have given them those little tricks. Hey, when it comes to football, you can't go there with George Weah. Come on. No, everybody knows that. That era, that area. But the moves, man. He said, look, even at 50, Weah is 59, going on 60. This year he will turn 60. And when he said, at 60, if you put me in, I could have scored a goal. I was like, damn it, time does fly. George Weah is 60? Folks, look at me, I'm 43 years old. And sometimes you say to yourself, what? Oh, yeah, all right, yes, oh yes, time does fly. We all getting old. All of us are getting old. So I want to congratulate Nimba County on a spectacular victory yesterday. On a much more continental and perhaps West African victory, I want to congratulate the Teranga Lions of Senegal. They did fantastic. It was a beautiful, beautiful game. We didn't get to watch it, but of course we saw the highlights after the county meet, and Senegal did great. And we are all proud. We are all very proud as Africans. Target some of you people. Ooh, every little thing. When everything you do can make people talk, you're blessed. Somebody say, my glasses don't look good on me. You my girlfriend? You my wife? That your business? Some people say, oh, you lose too much weight. That your business? Anyway, folks, I love my Liberian people. But we're here for very serious business today. Very, very serious business today. We are here exclusively, quintessentially, particularly, to bring you updates, latest developments on the status of the strident, nefarious, diabolical, okay, let me use a word Liberian people will understand, wicked effort led by my own dear sister, Yomli Kanga Lawrence. I saw her last night at the county meet. And I will not say that part. It's awkward. But we've got updates. And they were sicking you to your stomach. They were sicking you to your stomach. We have, evidence. We pride ourselves on presenting you nothing but the facts. Cogent, unimpeachable facts. Facts which cannot be disputed. Facts which are very, very strong. And so we're not providing you opinion. We're giving you facts. And when we give you the facts, you can take them or you can leave them. Normally we begin to speak when we've reached 1,000 views, but we're currently already at 1,400, 1,500 views. So come on, folks. We will begin to address you shortly. We're 1,500. Good. So we will begin to address you shortly. Where do we start? I want to say something. Recently, the United States government, was last week, through the State Department, issued a ban on the processing of, or the issuance of non-immigrant visas. This is a side topic. On 75 countries around the world. And they stated very clearly why they did it. And there were those who try to make it seem like it has anything to do with that Liberia was listed because of political reasons, or that the Liberian government has fallen out of favor with the U.S. government. It had absolutely nothing to do with that. If you read what they said, Liberia been listed on this, as part of this, is that 75 countries around the world, the U.S. government made it pretty clear, public charge. There are a lot of people who leave their countries, move to America as immigrants to live, and they become a financial burden on the United States government. The government begins to have to provide for them. And President Trump doesn't like that. He's not big on the welfare state. And so this immigrant visa ban was not political. It has absolutely nothing to do with President Boakai and President Trump or the Liberian government, the US government having an issue. So they're doing a review. So the people, after this review, we hope it doesn't take too long. After the review, some countries will be reinstated and they will become eligible once again for immigrant visas. In the meantime, people can still get non-immigrant visas, visitor visas, business visas, tourist visas, whatever you call them. So I just wanted to point that out. And some people are trying to make it look like, oh, maybe it has something to do with the statement made by Louis Brown at the UN Security Council. I don't know that. But what I do know is that it was not Liberia being targeted by the US government because we're falling out of favor. I think President Trump very much likes and respects President Boakai. The fact that Trump, of all the people in the world, the other day he picked up the phone and called President Boakai to have a conversation. I think that's very important. I think is indicative of the fact that he likes him, which is a good thing for us, which has benefited us a lot. Don't forget now, these same American people decided to, only a few months ago, to extend our non-immigrant visa, our visitor visa, from the 1 year to multiple 3-year re-entry visas. Don't forget that. They just did that. Okay, folks. So let me get to why we're here today. It is very important. On the 6th of January, I came on here and I spoke to you and I stated my position on the efforts led by Senator Yombli Kanga Lawrence and her dear friend and ally Darius DeLong to bring about chaos. Liberia has 4 ports: the Free Port of Monrovia, the Buchanan Port, and the Maryland, the Harper Port, and the Greenville Port. Those 2 ports are not doing well. They don't really generate. Okay. Oh my God. All right, George, okay. I don't know. It's just, it was acting up. Folks, I'm sorry. I don't know what the issue is with my internet, but we're back. So as I was saying, the reason I came on to speak to you the other day had nothing to do with, it was nothing personal. Nothing personal about DeLong or Yombli. Absolutely nothing personal. I just felt that I couldn't sit down and be quiet to see Yombli and DeLong go on unhindered without being called out to bring about chaos and fragmentation within the port system. That's what I felt. So I talked to you the other day about the revised, so-called revised bills that they had submitted to the president. And those revised acts that were submitted, I believe, on the 2nd of January, according to the Constitution, when the legislature submits an act before the president, having passed the both chambers, the House and the Senate, when it goes before the president has 21 days from the date of transmittal to sign it into law or to veto it. That is the Constitution. So they submitted that on the 2nd of January, and today is the what? What's today's date, folks? The 18th, the 19th? What's today's date? Let me go to the calendar. Today is the 19th. So from the 2nd, this week, sometime this week, the 21-day will elapse, the 21-day period. So the president will either have to sign it into law or the president will have to veto it. That is the decision with which the president is faced. Within 21 days, as per the Constitution, that's what I think it is, 21 days, 20 or 21 days, the president will have to do it. Now, I have here, folks, which will form a critical part of my discussion today. The opinion of the Minister of Justice. I have the opinion here. That's why I say I'm not giving you my opinion. I will give you the facts, after which I will give you my opinion. But I will give you the facts first. This opinion by the Ministry of Justice was submitted to the President on the 12th of January 2026. If you look here, you should be able to see the date. The 12th of January 2026. They submitted the so-called revised and reenacted acts to the President on the 2nd. 10 days later, the Minister of Justice submitted his opinion. I have it here. It is very juicy and very interesting. I also have here the signature page. This page, or these two pages that I have, are for the both committees. The Committee on Judiciary should have signed, and the Committee on State Enterprise, Commission and Autonomous Agencies should have also signed. These two signature pages should have been attached to the reenacted, supposedly revised acts to be submitted to the President. These two signature pages, the names of the various legislators are here, but none of them signed. Yes, folks, there you have it. These two pages, they didn't sign. Youngly submitted to the President's office, supposed revised, reenacted pieces of legislation to which committee members didn't sign. They didn't sign. Look, they didn't sign. I will call the names, the two committees and the names of the committee members that didn't sign. I have also spoken with some legislators, senators and representatives who told me they didn't even get to see the revised bill. But somehow the bill or the revised acts made their way to the executive mansion. They didn't get to see them. Oh yeah, they didn't get to see them. I mean, how would they see them when the committee members themselves didn't even sign? Blank pages. Not a single one of the committees on judiciary and the committee and the committees on state enterprise and commission signed. They didn't sign. Youngly submitted revised acts to which critical committee members did not sign. Youngly doing that? Youngly and Dillon? These people who are supposed to be champions of democracy and rule of law, good governance, people who we thought were on the same side as us, fighting to change this country, they did that. I have intimated my position, my very humble opinion to the President, privately, on this particular matter. I have told him that it would be a colossal mistake were he to affix his signature to these revised acts, were he to ignore the very clear, clarion admonishment by his Minister of Justice on these acts. The Minister of Justice, this is the opinion, tons and tons, several pages. I will read for you. In fact, this opinion, if you thought the first one was harsh, this one is stronger. The language in this one is stronger than the first one. Yes, if you're wondering, Yumli Kanga Lawrence and Darius Dillon submitted revised acts to the President's office without the signatures of the relevant committee members. Dillon and Yumli, No committee member signed. No committee member signed. These copies I got from the thing. Nobody signed. Darius Dillon did that. I can't believe it. That's why I said, when I speak to you today, what I will present to you today will leave you shocked, but not only that, disgusted and sick to your stomach. People we thought really meant well. Today, because they have power. That's when you know when Michelle Obama said in a very beautiful speech she gave once, she said, power does not make you who you are, does not change you. Power only reveals who you are. That's what it does. That's what power does. Power only reveals. So today power is revealed because Yombli is the politically fourth most important politician in the country, and Darius Dillon is the third most important guy in the Senate. You are seeing today what they are capable of because they have power now. They're trying to arm twist. And Yombli, they're going all over the place. They're crying that, oh, if the president refuses, if the president vetoes these acts that we've submitted again in the exact same form as we submitted the first ones, they would weaken me. They would destroy me. It would signal that I have no influence with the president. And my colleagues could move to remove me as pro tem. The president told you very clearly in his July 15, 2025 veto letter that what you submitted was bad. He enumerated, he listed all the problems with what you submitted. Therefore, affording you the opportunity to go back and fix it. When you brought the same document right back to the president. And then now you are trying to put the president under duress. That, oh, Mr. President, if you don't sign it the way it's looking, my colleagues would think that I have no influence with you, and then I will go against you. I mean, they would make a move against me to remove me as pro tem. Some senators have already intimated to me that, hey, Yombli, she told us this was the president's bill. The reason we went along with it is she told us this was the president's bill. But how can the president veto his own bill? Does that make sense to you? How can the president veto his own bill? If the bill was the president's bill, it would have emanated as is the case. But the president vetoed the bill. Then you take the bill back, you don't make any changes, you bring the same damn thing back. As per the Justice Minister's opinion. I have it here, July 12, 2026. And then now you are begging. If the president refuses to sign the bill as submitted, my colleagues would think that I have no influence with the president. And yes, Yombli, you stake a lot on the line. You staked your political capital on the line with this effort to fragment the system. You did that. And when the president refuses to sign, it is going to politically damage you. Perhaps an irreparable damage, because you all go around acting like you made Joe Boakai president, when everybody knows the fact that Yombli and Dillon never supported Joe Boakai until April of 2023. That's when they came out to support Joe Boakai all along. When they used to ask Darius Dillon and Yombli, where do you stand in the CPP? Do you support Joe Boakai for president? What, you all remember the famous words of Darius Dillon, or perhaps the infamous words? He used to say, we're leaning. How many of you don't remember that? Dillon used to say, we're leaning. That's what they used to say. They were never clear on their support for for Joe Boakai. Because they were trying to leverage and position themselves to get the running mate slot. So they never quite said they were supporting Joe Boakai until 2023 April. Folks, you don't have to like me. Just listen to what I'm about to present to you, the facts. But before I do, there's something I'm going to tell you that will sicken you to your stomach. Mr. President, this is to the president. Your legal advisor, Buju Keita, is one of the biggest problems you have. And if you have not already identified that, then you are in trouble, Mr. President. You are in trouble. You are in trouble. Buju Ben Keita, as legal advisor to the president, was the one who convinced the president that the president had the legal authority to dismiss the governor of the Central Bank of Liberia. When the president dismissed the Central Bank governor, which he did not have the authority to do, the Central Bank governor proceeded to go to court to sue the government. The same Buju Ben Keita turned around and negotiated a $375,000 payout to the Central Bank governor. You all remember that. You all remember that. Buju Ben Keita. They paid Talu $375,000 US because the president did not have the legal authority to dismiss the Central Bank governor as per the CBO Act. It was very clear. The same legal advisor to the president convinced the president, publicly even stated his argument, that because the LTA commissioners were involved in political activity, canvassing for CDC, the president had legitimate grounds to dismiss all of the commissioners at the LTA. The president proceeded to dismiss them, acting on the legal advice of Buju Ben Keita. After the president dismissed them, which he clearly didn't have the authority to do, what happened? Buju Ben Keita turned around and became the go-between, the negotiator for a hefty settlement, financial settlement, for all of the dismissed commissioners of the LTA. I'm told about $2 million or thereabouts was paid out to the commissioners of LTA. Buju Ben got his cut. They gave him a kickback. Folks, are you listening? He advised the president, fire the CBO governor, nothing can happen. CBO governor runs to court. The government is supposed to pay him $375,000 US. You all remember that. He told the president, get rid of the folks at the LTA. You have the grounds to do that. President did that. They settled them, paid them a lot of money. Buju Ben Keita. Folks, as I speak to you, let me tell you what Buju Ben Keita is currently working on. Buju Ben Keita is currently working with Yombly. This is a message I'm sending to all members of the legislature, all of you. Yombly and Darius Delon are currently working with Buju Ben Keita. These revised acts that went before the president on the 2nd of January, awaiting the president's action, veto or approve, because Yombly and Delon did not make any changes in the act, as highlighted by the president, they submitted the exact same thing, which the opinion of the Minister of Justice will prove, since some of you don't believe me. They are now working with Buju Ben Keita, the legal advisor to the president, to make changes to an act that has already been passed by the House and the Senate and submitted to the president for approval or for veto. Wait, listen, perhaps you did not understand me. The legal advisor to the president has taken it upon himself to make revisions, to make changes, to alter, to finger this document that is already before the president for one or two things. One of when the legislature submits a piece of bill or an act, because once it is passed in both houses, it becomes an act. Once that act is submitted before the president can only do one of two things. Either he vetoes it or he signs it into law. But the president's legal advisor nor the Minister of Justice cannot make any changes to an act pending before the president for signature, for approval, or for veto. Wait, did you understand what I just said? Darius DeLong and Yombly Kanga Lawrence are in cahoots with the legal advisor. Right now, Buju Ben is working against the opinion of the Minister of Justice. He is currently busy making changes, altering an act of legislature submitted to the president. He's making changes he does not have the authority to do, changes he does not have the power to make. He's making those changes with Yombly's support, with DeLong's support. He's making changes. Fellow Liberians, are you listening to this? President Boakai, this is not what you stand for. This is not what we voted. You know, one of the things about the Liberian people, it is okay when you talk about the opposition, the people who are not in your political camp. But it is not okay when you have the courage, as few of us do, to speak up and expose our friends or our allies when they do wrong. That's exactly what some of you have a problem with. Why is Henry Costa speaking out against his former allies or his friends? Man, I don't give a damn. That is the thing with me. I don't work for the government. I don't want to work in the government. I will speak out because I put a lot of effort into making Joe Boakai president, regardless of how he ended. Buju Ben Keita is fingering the act before the president. I'm calling on members of the legislature who have scruples, who have spoken out, that because Buju Ben is working to convince the president, so he's making the changes. Mr. President, if you go ahead and sign into law the authored and fingered act that Buju Ben is producing, you would be committing a crime. You would be committing a breach of the Constitution. When a bill goes, when an act goes before you, Mr. President, you can only send it back by vetoing it, or you approve it and sign it into law. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows this. You cannot, Mr. President, have your legal advisor, and I'm not saying the president is aware. The president is not aware of this. And I thought I couldn't sit down and not speak to this issue. That Buju Ben Keita is fingering the document as we speak to make it amendable, to make it somewhat agreeable in order for the president to sign it. No. I've already intimated my position to the president. Mr. President, this is not what you stand for. You cannot sign that into law. Send it back. Send it back. You cannot sign it as Buju Ben has tampered with. Send it back to Yombly and DeLong. Let them fix it. Send it back. Fellow Liberians, the Liberia Chamber of Commerce, through its chairman or its head, former NIC boss, Natty B. Davis, Honorable Natty B. Davis, met with the president and several others a short while ago. And the Liberia Chamber of Commerce made their position on this effort by Yombly and DeLong very clear. That it would be a terrible thing to fragment the port system. Terrible. If If you want to decentralize, as the president has already called for, decentralize. Grant a degree of operational and financial autonomy to the various ports. Do that. It's perfectly okay to do that. That is already underway. It is already been done. There is absolutely no need to completely disintegrate the port system. You have contracts entered into by NPA, long-term contracts. How are you going to address handling or dealing with those contracts if you destroy the system as we know it? You have the port of Greenville, which is not generating any revenue to sustain itself. Who's going to pay for it if you decentralize the port system? Who's going to give the money to sustain them? You have the Harper Port, which generates no money, really. The only other port other than the Monrovia Port that generates money is the Buchanan Port. It generates some money. And it stands to generate much more money when increased traffic begins to happen there. You have those things. So the reality here is that who is going to be paying for those other ports to sustain them if you do that? I've been informed that our international partners, the International Maritime Organization, the IMO, the American Embassy, have all reached out. They are very concerned. They're very concerned about this effort. What is going to happen? It's going to disintegrate the system. It's going to cause a serious problem. And so they want to know what's going on. But folks, let's get down to the position of the Minister of Justice. Let's go to the Minister of Justice. Republic of Liberia, Ministry of Justice, January 12, 2026. I just want to say something. When I did the first podcast, I got a call from Darius DeLong. I didn't answer his call. He called me a few times. I didn't answer his call. A couple of days later, he called me again. I didn't answer his call. Then he reached out to a mutual friend of ours and said he wanted to talk. I don't want to talk to him. Then I saw on Facebook some of his people, who are my people, insulting me, including my late dead mother. I said, fine. That's how DeLong intends to respond. DeLong is chicken. You know, he's not going to respond to me himself because he knows he's not going to respond. He and Young Lee, they will not respond to me. They know my firepower. So what do? They pay a few of our boys to go on Facebook to go to the extent of insulting my dead mother. Fine, good job. Yeah. Good job, DeLong. Insult my dead mother. I will not take your call. I don't want to talk to you and Young Lee. I don't give a damn. But what I will stay on message and I will expose you. That's what I will do. And this is not just you. Anybody else in this government whose action, whose activities run contrary to what we promised the Liberian people that Joe Walker would do, I will come for you. I will come for your jocular. I will come for you so aggressively that you would not believe it. January 12, 2026. His Excellency President Joseph Yuma Boakai, Senior President of the Republic of Liberia, Executive Mansion, Capitol Hill, Monrovia, Liberia. This is the opinion of the Minister of Justice, folks. Hold on. The Minister of Justice's opinion. Your Excellency, legal opinion, this is the subject. Legal opinion on the reenacted and resubmitted Liberia Sea and Inland Ports Regulatory Act 2025. He called my mom. So you hear how I missed that? I went to jail. Where did? Some of y'all said, now I will go into jail. Fighting Jowia so you can get power. You think that me you get scared? And I cross in small kingdom over river in the net. And I go to jail. Government and chase me all over the place here. That begin causing my mind on Facebook that they won't make me scared to talk. Something wrong with y'all. Y'all know who you're dealing with. You dealing with crazy men that cost a lot of a friend or somebody. Y'all keep causing my mind. I will deal with you intellectually and with the facts. I will expose you for what you all are. Then we made Joe Baka. Where the hell you made Joe Baka at? You, Delon and Yomli, where? You say you leaning. Delon, do you support Joe Baka? Oh, we are leaning. We are leaning. Schemers like y'all. Y'all cause Sarah Burton. Y'all cause her. Sarah Burton, can you hear you? I will not cause you. I will not cause Yomli. I will not cause Delon. I will present the facts and expose you. Bunch of fake hypocrites. We fought for something, we get power. Then you want to make Joe Baka government some kind of way. You think I will sit down here and stand for it? I will talk. I got the biggest mouth in this country. And you all know it. Go cause my man. I will not cause your man. I will not cause yourself. I will deal with your good. Let me read the Justice Minister's opinion. Listen to this opinion. Listen to this opinion from the Minister of Justice. I am pleased to present my compliments of the highest esteem and to respectfully submit to your excellency on behalf of the Ministry of Justice this legal opinion on the Liberia Sea and Inland Ports Regulatory Act of 2025, hereinafter the 2025 LSRA bill, which was transmitted by the Liberian Senate to your excellency for approval and signature. Summary of legal opinion. Now, the summary of any document, summary or executive summary, it has basically all of the meat in it. So listen to this executive summary. Listen to the executive summary. After a comprehensive examination, listen, this is not my opinion. Listen to the Ministry of Justice. This is not my opinion. After a comprehensive examination of the 2025 LSRA bill, in light of, 1, these are the various things that it revealed. The constitutional governance framework. 2, the existing Liberian Maritime Authority Act of 2010. That means this bill would affect the Maritime Authority Act. It would affect the Ministry of Transport Act. It would affect several things. 3, the Minister of Justice's prior legal opinion that occasioned the presidential veto of similar legislation. That means my first opinion I sent to you, which formed the basis for your veto of the bill. 4, the legislature's formal response to your excellency's previous veto of July 15, 2025. And 5, detailed verification of the actual statutory text against the legislature's representations. I must advise that this legislation contains substantial structural deficiencies that warrant a presidential veto. Folks, let me read for you. Let me reread. Perhaps you did not understand me. What is contained here in this very detailed opinion of the Ministry of Justice? The Minister of Justice listed 5 things, 5 reasons, and then said, I'm going to read, I must advise that this legislation contains substantial structural deficiencies that warrant a presidential veto. The Minister of Justice says, after all of the things that I have stated, our position as a Minister of Justice, that you, Mr. President, grant or issue a presidential veto. Reject it, throw it away, put it in the trash bin, kick it outside, burn it, shred it, but do not sign it, do not approve it. I'm going to reread. I'm going to read again what the Ministry of Justice said. And also the NAFA Act. The fishery people, the Act 2 would be affected if this thing is passed. There will be complete chaos. Maritime would be affected. Ministry of Transport would be affected when it comes to insurance for sea craft. NAFA would be affected because everybody would be affected if this comes into effect. Into effect. So the Justice Minister says here, I must advise that this legislation, this act, contains substantial structural deficiencies, problems, many problems, faults that warrant a presidential veto. The Justice Minister goes ahead further. The analysis presented here rests upon a critical finding. The legislature's official response to Your Excellency's veto, submitted through the Senate, contains material assertions regarding the content and amendments of the 2025 LSRA bill. A thorough review of these assertions have shown that the issues identified in your veto were not remedied. Are you listening to the Minister of Justice? The Minister of Justice is saying, after we thoroughly reviewed the new bill that they submitted, we found out that they made no effort whatsoever to remedy, to correct, to fix, to change, to improve the first bill. I'm going to read again for you. The Minister of Justice said, a thorough review of these assertions have shown that the issues identified in your veto, Mr. President, the issues you raised, the issues you listed, which in total were 9, the Minister of Justice says, were not remedied, were not fixed, were not corrected, were not improved. So, Mr. President, how can you sign a new one when the issues you raised in the first one were not fixed, were not changed, were not improved? How? That is what the Minister of Justice is saying. Go cause the Minister of Justice too. Cause him, because that's his opinion, right? Go cause the Minister of Justice. I'm going to read further. This is illustrated. He says, we can prove this. We can demonstrate this. He said, this is illustrated by the following. A, he's listing the things now that the president listed that were not changed by Yombly and Delors. They didn't change nothing. Some of you here come here cussing me. This is the Minister of Justice saying Yombly and Delors are crooks. They didn't make any changes to the bill. After the president vetoed it, they just went back. They hurriedly brought the same thing right back. You want to find a crook? You're looking for a damn crook? Okay, you know where to find the damn crooks. This is not the one speaking to you. Because they didn't change anything. They brought it right back to the president as was vetoed by the president. Let me read for you further. The Minister of Justice goes ahead now to list the fundamental issues which were raised by the president that they did not change. The act, A, he listed them. A, where the Senate claimed to have deleted contested maritime functions. They said saying the president had raised an issue that they were taking maritime functions away. The Minister of Justice says, where they claimed they deleted the contested maritime functions, the Minister of Justice writes further, the act explicitly retains them. The act explicitly retains them. It keeps them. They left it intact. They didn't change it. That's what it means. The act explicitly keeps them in place. They didn't change them. Are these not crooks? Is this not what crooks do? The president said they want back. It will take maritime functions away. Y'all go change it. They ain't changed a jing thing. The Congo man said jing. They ain't changed a jing, a doggone thing. They brought the same thing right back to the president. They won't take Liberia Maritime Authority functions away. They want to take functions for NAFA. They want to take functions for MOT. So now we got to go amend all these existing institutions. B, where the Senate claimed revisions addressing overlapping concerns, the statutory text reveals that such revisions were either nominal or entirely absent. They say, all right, the president wrote in his letter July 15, this act in this current form overlaps, interferes, overreach. It's overreaching. Y'all go change it. The Minister of Justice said the changes that were made with regards to the overlapping were either nominal or, to quote him verbatim, entirely absent. Let me read further. These incorrect claims, the Minister of Justice is saying that Yombly and Dillon are lying. These incorrect claims, that they're claiming that they made changes, combined with the substantive defects, with the critical problems in the act itself, compels the recommendation. He said when you look at the Lala claims that Yombly and Dillon make, that they made revisions and changes, when you combine all of these things, and then you look at the substantive defects, the inherent problems with the act itself, Mr. President, the Minister of Justice Rice compels the recommendation that Your Excellency return this legislation for comprehensive amendment or explicit legislative justification. Is that my opinion? It is not my opinion. It is the opinion of the Minister of Justice. He said when you look at all the lies that the crafters of the bill have made, that they made changes, and then you look at the problems with the bill itself, Mr. President, it compels us, Mr. President, to humbly recommend that you return this bill to the legislature for amendment or explicit legislative justification. Let them justify it, but don't sign it as is. This is the Minister of Justice. I'm going to read further. So the Minister of Justice is very, very clear. He could not be clearer. He writes further. The central problem remains that it was before Your Excellency's earlier veto. The central problem remains what it was before Your Excellency's earlier veto. Did you hear that? The Minister of Justice is saying that the central problem with this so-called revised bill, it remains, even before you veto it. They did not change it. So why would Yombly and Dillon lie that they made changes to the bill? Why would they lie? Oh no, I'm not the one to answer that question. Go ask them. Because the people they are working for, the AGL people they're working for, to get the Buchanan Port and concession out to, they don't want changes made to the bill as is. That is the reason why Yombly and Dillon did not make the changes. Even though President Boakai told them to make these changes, they did not make those changes because their paymasters do not want them to make those changes. If you change it, we would not give you the money that we are supposed to give you. That is it. That is it. They did not make those changes because the people who are paying them to do this would not be pleased with the changes. So they ignored President Boakai and proceeded to heed the instructions of their paymaster, the French folks, the French people who won the port. Let me read further from the Minister of Justice's opinion. The central problem remains what it was before Your Excellency's earlier veto. The central problem. And what is the central problem? Let me read further. The 2025 LSRA bill fails to resolve. It fails to resolve, and in several respects exacerbates, which means increases, it worsens the problem, exacerbates the fundamental governance coordination failures that the legislature itself identified as necessitating new regulatory architecture. That's the central issue. He said, how can they say that this bill seeks to fix governance, to improve governance coordination, when they themselves crafted a bill that only worsens the problem? It only makes it worse. That's what the Minister of Justice is saying. It only makes it worse. The Minister of Justice proceeds to write further. By consolidating conflicting functions. You consolidate. You take all the functions that conflict. Functions of maritime, functions of NAFA, functions of Ministry of Transport. By combining them together, by consolidating them together within a single new agency, while simultaneously subordinating that agency to an existing maritime authority, the 2025 LSRA bill perpetuates rather than resolves the institutional chaos it purports to remedy. He said it will not work. You say there are issues, there are conflicts. You say you're creating a new regulatory agency to fix that problem. But what do? Instead, you bring about more chaos. You bring about more confusion. And these are not my words. These are the words of the Minister of Justice. These are the words of the Minister of Justice. The Minister of Justice writes further. Your Excellency will recall that in the preceding legislative session, the legislature passed 2 companion bills, the Liberia Sea and Inland Ports Regulatory Act and the Liberia Sea and Inland Ports Decentralization and Modernization Act. These bills were submitted for Your Excellency's signature in accordance with Article 35 of the Constitution. Upon careful review and acting upon the legal counsel of the Minister of Justice, Your Excellency exercised the constitutional veto power, returning the bills with a detailed statement of objections. The President didn't just veto the bill. The President vetoed the bill in a very respectful manner, very detailed, listed all the problems as advised by the Minister of Justice, and sent it back to Yombly. The Minister of Justice's opinion identified 3 critical deficiencies, 3 critical problems. First, the proposed regulatory act created substantial overlap with the mandate of the Liberia Maritime Authority. Maritime is an agency of government that generates a lot of money for the government. Yombly and Dillon seek to destroy it by this bill if it is passed into law by President Boakai. The Minister of Justice writes further, potentially rendering the Liberia Maritime Authority partially redundant, leaving it with only ship registration. Are you listening? The Minister of Justice is saying that if the President were to sign into law this bill as submitted by Yombly and Dillon, it would render the Liberia Maritime Authority essentially redundant. Maritime would only be doing ship registration. All the key functions would be gone. Do you know what that would do to a government cash cow? To an institution, an agency of government that generates millions and millions of dollars for the government? It would render them defunct. It would render them defunct. That is exactly what it would do. It would destroy them. It would destroy Maritime Authority. We're not just talking about National Port Authority. We're talking about the National Port Authority, yes, which is very, very critical, very, very essential to this economy. We are also talking about the Liberia Maritime Authority. It would destroy the Liberia Maritime Authority. And these are not my words. These are the words of the Ministry of Justice. The Minister of Justice says, he says this, he said, first, the proposed regulatory act creates a substantial overlap with the mandate of the Liberia Maritime Authority, potentially rendering the Liberia Maritime Authority partially redundant, leaving it with only ship registration. You would be destroying the Liberia Maritime Authority. Can you imagine? Folks, how many of you support that? How many of you support destroying the Liberia Maritime Authority? How many of you? Tell me. The Minister of Justice writes, second, the proposed governance structure deviated from international best practices observed in peer maritime jurisdictions, Kenya, Nigeria, Singapore, just a couple of examples. where regulatory functions are either clearly separated from operational functions or internally compartmentalized to prevent conflicts of interest. Third, the proposed legislation was internally inconsistent. Listen to how the Minister of Justice describes the bill or the act. Internally inconsistent, conflicts with established agencies of government, and deviates from both domestic governance trends and international best practices without adequate justification. But who drafted that nonsense for DeLong and Yombly? Who drafted it for them? Was it DeLong? Was it the legal knowledge that he got from working for T.C. Goo's law firm? Is that what he used or rely upon to draft that nonsense? Did you hear what the Justice Minister wrote? That they think is complete nonsense. It doesn't make sense. It makes absolutely no sense at all. That's what the Justice Minister says. But who wrote it for them? The Justice Minister says the proposed legislation was internally inconsistent, conflicts with established agencies, and deviates from both domestic governance trends and international best practices without adequate justification. The legislature subsequently resubmitted the 2025 LSRA bill, accompanied by an official response from the Senate asserting that these deficiencies had been remedied. Let me tell you what Yombly did. Did you just hear what the Minister of Justice said? The Minister of Justice just said when Yombly resubmitted to the President the act, after he had vetoed it, when she resubmitted it on the 2nd of January, she submitted it with a letter stating that, Mr. President, we have addressed all the issues you raised. We have made all the changes that you said we should make. The Minister of Justice writes, it was a lie. That Yombly lied to the President. She lied to the President in that letter, the transmitter letter, in which she claimed boldly and audaciously that she had made all the changes. Mr. President, your Justice Minister, in his opinion dated January 12, 2026, is saying that Senator Yombly Kanga Lawrence lied to you that she did not make any changes. That she lied to you. The Justice Minister writes further. Specifically, the Senate letter claimed that contested maritime provisions had been deleted entirely. And he quoted them. Deleted entirely. Look how brave Yombly is. She used the words in her letter. Quote, deleted entirely. Mr. President, all the issues that got to do with the maritime functions that the bill took away, I want to assure you that we have entirely deleted those functions that we took. The Minister of Justice writes, specifically, the Senate letter claimed that contested maritime provisions had been, quote, deleted entirely, unquote. That overlapping functions had been removed and that the revised 2025 LSRA bill now aligned with international best practice modes. We have undertaken a comprehensive analysis at 2 levels. The Minister of Justice writes further. Number 1, verification of the legislature's representations against the actual statutory text of the 2025 LSRA bill. And 2, evaluation of the substantive deficiencies in the act as written. This opinion addresses both. I'm going to go to the conclusion, folks. Conclusion and recommendation. This is the conclusion and recommendation, folks. Read it. I'm going to go there. From the Minister of Justice to the President. Your Excellency should consider that the issues identified in this opinion are substantially identical to those identified in the Minister of Justice's opinion that occasioned the earlier veto. You need to listen to this. The Minister of Justice is saying to the President, Mr. President, the same things that we said in the first opinion that we issued to you, which led you to veto that bill the first time. The opinion contained in this new opinion are identical to the opinion we rendered in the first opinion. Let me read it again so you all can understand. Nothing changed, Mr. President. Your Excellency should consider that the issues identified in this opinion, dated January 12, 2026, are substantially identical in the Minister of Justice's opinion that occasioned, that caused you, that led you, that prompted you, that inspired you, Mr. President, to veto their first Nyama Nyama bill. Nothing changed. The Minister of Justice writes further. The legislature has resubmitted legislation that perpetuates the very deficiencies, the very issues, the very problems Your Excellency previously found objectionable. I'm going to read it again. The man said, Mr. President, Yombly has resubmitted to you the exact same bill with all the bad things inside that you, Mr. President, found objectionable, that you found problematic, that you found unamendable, that you found unagreeable. The same problems that were inside the first one, that the same problem inside the second one, that the Minister of Justice said, that Henry Costa. Are you all listening? Keep passing me. Yombly and Dillon people. That is what the Minister of Justice is saying. That the same issues that were contained in the first bill that you found disagreeable, that led you to veto it, that the same problems are in the second bill. The Minister of Justice writes further in the last paragraph, and then I will be done with this, of their opinion. Wherefore, we respectfully recommend, listen to this, in view of all of this, Mr. President, we respectfully recommend that Your Excellency exercise the constitutional veto power and return the 2025 Liberia Sea and Inland Ports Regulatory Bill to the legislature. They're saying, Mr. President, we advise most respectfully, most humbly, that you kindly exercise your veto power as granted unto you by Article 35 of the Liberian Constitution and return to the legislature this ugly bill, this bad bill that Yombly sent to you. Send it back. Send it back. Send it back to Yombly. The Minister of Justice writes further. This recommendation is based upon our comprehensive analysis set forth above. The Minister said, they won't know about my feeling, what I let Yombly and I let Yombly, what that Yombly recommended me to you to make me Minister of Justice. And that's why you all should know, this Justice Minister was recommended to President Bouaga by Yombly and Darius DeLong. Yeah, they're their own guy. And it makes me respect the guy. He has disagreed with them twice. I mean, how is it that Yombly and Dillon were not able to convince the Justice Minister to change his opinion? Because their second opinion is worse than the first opinion. The Justice Minister writes further and says, Mr. President, this recommendation we're making most respectfully, that you should exercise your constitutional authority to send it back. We're saying, Mr. President, every reason that we're giving you is contained in the comprehensive analysis that we've done. Relative to both, one, the substantive deficiencies in the 2025 LRSA bill itself, and two, the incorrect claims contained in the legislature's response to Your Excellency's previous veto. The man saying there are two reasons, fundamentally, in the nutshell, cumulatively, the two reasons that I'm urging you, Mr. President, to veto this one as you did the first one. Number one, all the problems, the deficiencies in the bill itself. Number two, the fact that you only lie. The Justice Minister vowed. The Justice Minister said the President should not only veto the bill because the bill is loaded with deficiencies, with problems, but the President should veto the bill. The second reason for which the President should veto the bill is because Youngbley, in her transmitter letter, in which she submitted the second bill for lying to the President. I'm not the one saying it. The Justice Minister said, for lying to the President that they made changes as per the President's concern raised in his veto of July 15, Mr. President rejected because of those two reasons. For lying to you and for the problems that the bill has. Fellow Liberians, to recap, and then I will throw in another thing before I close. Darius DeLong, I would have never thought in a million years that Darius DeLong, with whom we fought for good governance, good democratic governance and the rule of law in this country, and Youngbley Kanga, particularly DeLong, would be working with the President's legal advisor to alter and make revisions to an act of the legislature, before the President for signature or for veto, for action, period, whatever action the President takes. But that DeLong and Youngbley would be working in cahoots, conniving, scheming, trying to make changes, because they saw the Justice Minister's opinion now. So Buju Ben Keita, the legal advisor to the President, who has been ill-advising the President legally, is now working with Youngbley and DeLong to make changes to this. Would be a major constitutional breach, Mr. President. It would be a major constitutional breach that changes would be made to a piece of legislation before you for approval or for rejection by your legal advisor without your knowledge, without your blessing. Joe Boakai, the man that I know, would never engage in such a thing. Never. But Buju Ben Keita, and I've been told that this is not Buju Ben Keita's first time tampering with documents that go before the President for legal opinion. He always tampers with them. Somebody told me he tampered with the recent Tourism Act. Somebody just told me that. Just before I came on the live feed, that Buju Ben is in the habit, whenever bills go before the President for approval or for action, Buju Ben would work with the people, the interested party, or the party that is lobbying for this bill or for whatever piece of legislation. He would take money from them and he would make changes to those pieces of legislation in favor of the people who submitted it to the President for action or who lobbied to get it there. That's what Buju Ben does. He offers bad advice that leads to the government spending money that they shouldn't spend. And then he takes money from people and colludes with them to breach the Constitution. The Constitution could not be clearer. There are only two things the President can do when a piece of legislation goes before him for action. He can do only one of those things, not two at the same time. The President may, in his wisdom, as he did on July 15th, veto or reject that piece of legislation, or the President can approve it and sign it into law. But the President's legal advisor cannot make changes to such a bill. Buju Ben is making changes to the bill as we speak. He has been consulting people, making changes, and that's how I got to know. And to think that Yombly and Delon would be involved in such a thing, that Yombly and Darius Delon, it breaks my heart. That they are so desperate to get this Buchanan Port and give it to the French billionaires for money that they will be conniving with Buju Ben to commit this egregious constitutional breach, to impugn the sanctity of the presidency, to insult and desecrate the Constitution of the Republic, just so they can pass this law. Did you not hear me reading the opinion of the Minister of Justice? Not only did Yombly not make any changes to the bill, Yombly lied to the president that he made changes to the bill. If that is not criminal desperation on Yombly and Delon's part, what is? You write to the president, His Excellency. You lie to him. Mr. President, all the things you raised, your issues you have with the first bill, Mr. President, we assure you we've changed all. The reason they did that is because they are working with the president's legal advisor, so that he would then go to the president and say, they've changed it. What time do you think the president has to sit down and read those voluminous documents? He relies upon the counsel of his legal advisor. That's what he does. So those of you who support Yombly and Delon calling me liar, calling me this, Yombly and Delon are the bloody liars. They are so terrible that they would lie to the president of the republic and document it. It's right here in the Justice Minister's opinion. They wrote the president and they lied. They lied. They said we changed it. So my people, I'm going to ask you this question, and it is not a rhetorical question. I would like you to answer this question. Why do you think Yombly and Delon wrote to His Excellency and lied and said they made the changes, when in fact they did not make the changes? Please tell me, why do you think they lied to the president? I'm waiting for you to answer the question. Why do you think Yombly and Delon wrote to the president and said, we made the changes you said we should make? Why do you think they did that? Why do you think they did that? They did that because the money that the French billionaires are offering them, AGL, Africa Global Logistics, they are offering them for the Buchanan Port. The money is too good to turn down. The money is too good. So they lied to the president. And some of you said that, you say, oh, President Bouakai has a lot of experience. He's been in government for so long. Yes, but he's one human being who means amazingly well for this country. But he's one person. No matter how meticulous he can be, no matter how much time he has on his hands. So, of course, you know he's overwhelmed. He relies on his lieutenants. But when his legal advisor is contradicting the justice minister, the justice minister is the superior when it comes to legal matters to the president's legal advisor. The justice minister is the #1 person in the country whose legal opinion the government ought to follow and the president ought to make decisions based off of, not the president's. Are you listening? I'm going to ask you one more time. Why in the world do you think that Yombly and Delon wrote to the president in their transmitter letter telling him that they made all the changes, all the revisions that the president had said they should make? Why do you think they lied to him? And I'm not the one saying they lied. The justice minister in his opinion said they lied. So the question to you is, what could possibly be their motivation? What is their inspiration? Why did they lie to His Excellency? Why? It's simple. Money. Money, 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 money. Money! Because Yombly and Delon work for French billionaires who want to become a port. They don't respect Joe Boakai. The fact that you can write to the president and lie to him in a letter, not even orally or verbally, but you can write in a letter and lie to him that you make changes that you did not make, is enough grounds for the president to veto this bill again. Enough grounds. What do you take the president for? Mr. President, I encourage you, Uncle Joe, the fact that Yombly has disrespected you in this manner, has insulted you in this manner, Mr. President, is enough ground, is enough justification to veto this bill. Enough! Enough! Why didn't the Justice Ministry say, okay, the bill is problematic, bring it to us, let's make revisions? No. The Justice Ministry says the bill on its face, as submitted, as resubmitted, is bad. Mr. President, veto it. No! Buju Ben Keita decides, I'm going to take it upon myself to grant unto myself legislative powers to make changes. Buju Ben is currently making changes to the bill, and Yombly and Delon are paying Buju Ben to do this. Those of you idiots who are looking for someone to accuse of doing wrong or trying to do PR for somebody, you should know that Yombly and Delon are financially inducing the president's legal advisor to commit an egregious constitutional breach, to mess with our constitution. Buju Ben Keita is doing it right now, as we speak. Fingering the bill, something which he cannot and cannot, by law, by constitution, do. What do you have to say to that? As I said, I'm not here to give you my opinion. I give you the facts. Contained in opinion of the Minister of Justice, dated January 12, 2026. How many of you thought that Yombly and Delon were capable of such a thing? Michelle Obama could not have been more right when she said, power does not change you. It only reveals who you are. And then Yombly is going all around lobbying and telling the people in the executive branch of government that if the president vetoes this bill this time, my colleagues would move to remove me as pro temp. Oh, so the president should sit down there and sign something bad that would hurt his government to save your political hide, your skin. Who told you to do this for the money? Who told you? Oh, Mr. President, don't do this. If you do this, it will hurt me. Yes, it will hurt them. It will diminish them. When the president, I believe the president will do right. When the president vetoes this bill, as the Justice Ministry, as the Justice Minister has advised, has recommended, most respectfully, when the president does that, it would diminish Yombly politically. It would diminish Delon. They go around holding their chest high. We made Joe Boakai president. What the hell did you do? And Magdala Cooper is working with them. She's working with them. Somebody said, one of the reasons why they assigned her to be loyal to the speaker, so that the reason why the bill get passed through the House quickly. She was, you remember the last time I showed the picture? Magdala Cooper is working with Yombly and Delon. Somebody said the strategic reason why she is strategically loving to the speaker, they call it strategic loving. Edwin Snow can write a whole manual on strategic loving. Strategic loving is whereby you engage in romantic relations with an individual, whether a member of the same sex or the other sex, for the exclusive and singular purpose of extracting material benefits. Somebody, that's what they call strategic loving. They say Magdala Cooper is strategically loving to, on top of the fact that he has a $3 million budget, to the speaker because of this. That's why they didn't get passed in the House quickly. Strategic loving. Go to Edwin Snow, he can do a whole master class on strategic loving. That is what they are engaged into. So Yombly, they're working with the, so now they have co-opted Magdala Cooper. She works for them, calls a rescue entity, and they've co-opted the corrupt Buju Ben Keita. He works for them. So they have already polluted the office of the president. Strategic loving and strategic bill fingering. Buju Ben is fingering the bill while they deploy Magdala on the speaker as the spouse of the speaker to influence him and cajole him to do some, you know. I will just say something. That big brother there alone started woman business late. I don't know when some of us started woman business late. When I was growing up, I wasn't a ladies guy. I was shy. I always had my head buried in books, and I wanted to be smart, you know. So I wasn't really good with the ladies. You know, I think the getting Sophie's are for me because I wasn't good. Those who know me from back then, but I think the speaker, I think he was like me. He started woman business late. So you see a babiyata, like Magdala Cooper, and you think say you not find Queen Sheba or Cleopatra. Something gotta be wrong with you. You and her wearing the same clothes and going, oh, what they play, my man. That big brother thinks that the second best thing that has happened to him since becoming speaker is loving to Magdala Cooper. Richie Kun believes, I'm sure, that the second best thing that has ever happened to him in his entire life is loving to Magdala Cooper. That's your business. I don't know what kind of Jackie she can gain, what she can do, but I am told Magdala is on a mission. Magdala is always on a mission. It is only the target or the mark that is unaware that she is on a mission. Yombly and Delon strategically position her to strategically love to the speaker so that the speaker can strategically pass. Look, I said it, God. Y'all don't bring the old Henry Costa back. Y'all want the old Henry Costa back? Y'all don't make me vex. I will not let y'all spoil my uncle government. Y'all don't bring the old Henry Costa back. Mr. President, Buju Ben is a bad apple. Get rid of him. Magdala Cooper, the strategic lover, get rid of her. She has no business going with Yombly's people to Freetown to inspect the facilities of Africa, global logistics, the people who are funding and financing this whole thing. No business. Something else I want to leave you with before I go. When this president came to power, and this is to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the president, one of the things we had in this country was that the last administration, they abused the diplomatic passports. You all remember. Diplomatic passports were doled out, handed out on silver platter to all manners of people, shady people, people of all kinds of ilk. They did that. We had people being busted with drugs at airports in Istanbul, Turkey, because they had Liberian diplomatic passports with them. We had a Nigerian criminal way up there in Mexico City with a diplomatic passport and an honorary consul generalship. We had those things happen. And this government under President Bouakai has done a great deal of work trying to fix the system, clean up, and ensure that whoever got handed or issued a diplomatic passport actually does deserve it, is befitting of it, is worthy of it. But fellow Liberians, I have just gathered that there are some shady, undeserving individuals who have diplomatic passports. And tomorrow I will publish one of them. I will publish a passport. Emmanuel Gonkwe, this fella, who I'm told wrote a 13-page letter. He's one of the people fighting the MPA, trying to see how they can cause trouble there, cause confusion, disintegrate the system. Emmanuel Gonkwe. Now, many of you don't know who he is because he's a far insignificant individual. But it's not about who he is, but what he's guilty of is what I'm telling you. So I'm not going to even spend much time on him because he's not worthy of my breath. Gonkwe is in possession of a diplomatic passport, which I'm told he uses to hustle on business people, unsuspecting business people. He has a diplomatic passport. How he got it, I do not know. I'm told Gonkwe is using his diplomatic passport. He brings people into the country, purporting to be this very important person, thanks to his diplomatic passport. And he's collecting money from people. He's scheming from people. He's scheming people. Yes, the guy from EFFL, Emmanuel Gonkwe. He proceeded to write a 13-page letter to the president. What time do you think the president of the republic has to read a 13-page letter from a non-entity such as yourself? Supposedly informing the president of terrible things that are happening at the NPA. President read the letter, well, to a considerable extent, and realized that there was nothing in it. Gonkwe is on a mission. The EFF guy, that is correct. He carries a diplomatic passport. Who gave it to him? We will find out. Madam Sarah Besloyanti, you are one of the darlings in this government. You know you have a special place in my heart. But how the hell on God's earth did Gonkwe come to be in possession of a diplomatic passport, which he's using at carte blanche to beguile and deceive and swindle people out of their money? Yes, they said that's what he's doing. Gonkwe, and Gonkwe, I have more stuff on you. Tomorrow I will publish Emmanuel Gonkwe's diplomatic passport. Yes, and I'm told Gonkwe is some executive director at the National Port Authority. He works at the National Port Authority, and then he is engaged in undermining activity to bring down the NPA boss. But he's also engaged in shady criminal behavior with a diplomatic passport. I'm told Jeff Blebo, the NIC boss, was instrumental in him getting. They say Gonkwe is supposed to be some kind of what? Investment consultant or investment something for the government of Liberia. Where the hell does Gonkwe know people to bring into this country to be investors? What contacts has Gonkwe cultivated in his life? What is his network to bring investors? Then you give him a diplomatic passport, which is using to trick people. So we want to know, how the hell did Gonkwe become qualified for a diplomatic passport? We need to know. Because we promised that we would clean up the system. We would fix it. And to a large extent, oh yes, this government has done a fantastic job repairing the sordid, S-O-R-D-I-D, the terrible, nasty image of the country under the last administration. This government has done a fantastic job fixing that. Oh yeah. And Sarah Besloyanti, as the president's chief operator on the foreign policy front, the president is the architect of the country's foreign policy. Sarah Besloyanti is the president's implementer. She is the executor, executing the president's foreign policy architecture. And she's done a great job. I'm going to give her that. I love Sarah Besloyanti. We go way back. You know, but I want to know, how did Gonkwe get a diplomatic passport? How? But go back to my primary and fundamental issue before I close this live stream. Mr. President, Your Excellency, you have the authority as granted unto you by the Constitution in Article 35 to veto, to reject this so-called revised act. Veto it, reject it, as your Minister of Justice, the most senior legal person in the government, your most senior legal advisor, as advised and recommended by him, veto this act, this bill, because on one hand, it is loaded, it is saturated with deficiencies, with flaws. On the other hand, because Yombly told you a bold-faced lie that you made changes to the act. Yombly has insulted the presidency. This is an affront to the presidency. To write to His Excellency and tell him such a bold lie that you made changes that you did not make. It indicates, it establishes that you have ulterior motive for lying to the president. Thank you so much. God bless you. And when the need arises, if it does, rest assured, Henry Pedro Costa shall return to your screens, wherever you are. This big head of mine, which appears even bigger now that I've lost a significant amount of weight, is so big that it cannot fit in anybody's mouth. I do not treasure personal friendship over national interest. Where the country's interest is at stake, my friendship with you can go to hell. You all should know me by now. I am like the United States of America. I do not have permanent friends. I have permanent interest. And this interest is the country's interest. You all who are here insulting me and thinking that I am against Yombly and Delon, people whom I have fought for many years, and you are saying all kinds of rubbish, what say you to the Minister of Justice in their very brilliant and clear opinion? What say you? When will you learn to set aside your personal interests, your personal alliances, and focus on the interests of the country? That is what patriots do. I remember Theodore Roosevelt once said, and I quote, he said, "A true patriot is one who stands with his government when it is right, but who always stands with his country." You only stand with your government when it is right, not when it is wrong. I only stand with my friends when they are right, not when they are wrong. I will not stand with them when they are wrong. My heart is broken into a million pieces, shattered beyond repair, that Delon, the Darius Delon that we took from nowhere and made him into somebody today, the Yombly that we fought for, who on 2 occasions, in the first round and the second round of the 2023 elections, could not deliver Grand Bassa to Joe Biden. Joe Biden lost Grand Bassa in the last presidential elections. First and second rounds, she could not deliver Bassa. Is today the one who enjoys power and all the trappings and the emoluments of power, and is trying to undermine this president's legacy. As long as I live, as long as this mouth and this brain which God endowed me with work, I shall not allow it. I will fight with every fiber of my being to expose them. You better now wake this lion up. Oh, don't mind, crazy people who would have you believe that Henry Costa's voice is dead. Name one Liberian citizen today, one person who can sit behind a cell phone. Now let me brag a little so you know. That can command thousands and thousands of people to come on live for more than an hour or 2 or 3 or for as long as he wants them to watch. Name one person that can do that. How dare you say he's got no relevance? But you're watching me. Every word that comes out of my mouth, you are greedily swallowing it up. Because you know I speak substance. I speak knowledge. I speak with power. I speak with a gift. The gift of God. The gift of intelligence. So you would have yourself believe that, oh, Costa has got no voice. Are you sure Henry Pedro Costa has got no voice? Yet you are here for the last hour or 2 or 3. Name one other Liberian citizen who not even stand up. Let's come on, bring one person. Let them come live. Come live and let me come live. And see who can command the most people watching. I can keep you glued for as long as I want. I do not brag. I merely state the fact. A fact which numerically cannot be disagreed with. Cannot do that. No one can. Only I can. Because I was given a gift. So you better not wake me up. Do not wake me up. I will fight for my uncle's government to succeed. And if it means going against my friends and allies to do that, I will not shrink. I will not shy. I will not walk away from that. Thank you so much. God bless you. Bye-bye.